casket on the roller.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the funeral services of Mr. Richard A. Wasserman. Cantor Stephen Storr, Rabbi Aaron Melman from Congregation Beth Shalom will be officiating. We welcome those of you who are joining us via live stream, and at this time we are humbled and honored to have representatives for the United States Navy to do military honors for Richard's services to our country.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's truly an honor for us to be here with you in this moment. At this time, we'll be rendering military honors. If physically able, please rise. You may place your right hand over your heart, and if you have military service, you may render a hand salute. Bugler, sound taps. behalf of the President of the United States, the United States Navy, and the grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your husband's honorable and faithful service.
Before we start, was any specific order? Make sure we cut the ring. These three of these given. Around one inside. Okay, so there's a simple blessing. Thanks God for the times we had, for the life that we had, even terrible. This decision. Hold on to our faith. Souls back some days, and we pray for long years and blessings and lots of stories to tell. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance and thank you for your patience as we have to do everything appropriately according to military honors as well as Jewish tradition, of course. There's one longer paragraph that I'm about to recite that is called the Tziduk Adin, the righteous God, the righteous judge. And the family recited that blessing as Rabbi Melman and I assisted them in cutting Kri'ah, the small ribbon that they wear to show the sense of loss that is deep in their hearts. Many of you, I am aware, are also mourning this moment, but Jewish tradition has a specific identifiable marking, which is that ribbon that people wear, so that you can, when you get back to the house or where you'll be gathering, be able to reach out and comfort those who need you the most. While I'm reading this, I imagine within the booklet there's a poem or two. Maybe you want to focus on that or just some thoughts of your own at this time. Atzur tamim polo ki chotorechav mishpat elamuna v'yenavel tzadik v'yashar hu. Atzur tamim b'cho poal miyom alomativ halashalit matom memitim chayem ored shel v'yal. Tzadik b'cho dorechav atzur tamim erechapayim leirachamim chamana v'chusna lavot uvanim kilechad anoslichot v'harachamim. Adam ben shana yiyeh, olav shanim yichiyeh. Ma yitron lo kol yiyeh, baruch dayan ha'emet, memit mechayeh. Yadanu Adonai ki tzedek mishpatecha tizrach b'davrecha v'tizkeh b'shoftecha ve'en lahaher archad midat shoftecha tzedikat Adonai v'yashar mishpatecha Gedol ha'etzavrav hallelujah asher nekeh b'kochoto kol derech b'nei Adam lateit ish kedorcha v'chefrim alalav la'agid ki asher Adonai suri v'lo avlata bo Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach yishem Adonai mevorach v'hu rachum yechaper avon v'lo yashchit v'erbala hashiva po v'lo ya'ir kol chamato.
The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. May Rick's soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal. Send comfort, Adonai, to all those who mourn and grant strength to those whose burden is sorrow. Eternal God, creator of all life, you give the gift of your spirit and we are formed. You take it in return and we turn to dust. We are grateful for the many blessings in Rick's life. We now turn to you seeking comfort and light. Harachaman, compassionate one, grant us solace and strength, reinforce our faith, for you are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai roi lo echsar. Binodesh sheyarbitzeni al mei menuchot yinahaleni. Nafshi eshovev yancheni b'maglei tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech b'geitz ha'mavet lo yirara ki ata imadi. Shivtecha umishontecha hema yenachamuni. Taroch lefanai shulchan neged sorerai. Dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya. Achtov v'chesed yirdufuni kol yemei chayai. Veshavti b'veit Adonai leorech yamim. These are the words of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Kirachem av al banim richam Adonai al yireav, ki hu yadai yitzrenu zachur ki afar anachnu. The beginning of a selection of Psalm 103. As the Father has compassion for his children, God has compassion for those who show reverence. God knows how we are fashioned. God remembers that we are dust. The days of mortals are like grass. We flourish as the flowers of the field. A wind passes over them and they are no more, and no one can recognize where they grew. But God's compassion is everlasting. God's kindness to children's children, to all the reverent ones, endures age after age, unchanging.
We have just entered into a new Hebrew month titled Cheshvan. It's the second month of the new Jewish year. As it is that the prior month, Elul, had so many special days in it, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Simchat Torah, and this month has no holidays in it, we use the term Mar Cheshvan. The word Mar, which you might recognize from the word Maror from Passover, means bitter. And this month is bitter because there are no holidays in it. But who knew exactly how bitter this month would be for your family and for the people of Israel? The war within Israel is currently, to say the least, is bitter. Possibly some of you or family of yours who lived through the era of the Holocaust might have something with which to compare it. For when we hear the numbers of thousands, tens of thousands, and during the Shoah, millions, of course, it's hard to comprehend the loss and pain of each and every life. But as you've suffered a significant loss when Rick passed away, you can identify how devastating the loss of even a singular life can be, let alone thousands. Mar Cheshvan, indeed. Billy Joel's 1993 smash album, River of Dreams, has a special place in the hearts of you, Brandon and Greg, Rick's sons. It was the soundtrack on your trip to Kentucky, yet just one of the other adventurous vacations with your dad. The lyrics to one of its songs, Lullaby, offer the sentiments which I believe are fitting today. Good night, my angel, now it's time to dream, and dream how wonderful your life will be. Someday your child may cry, and if you sing this lullaby, then your heart there will always be a part of me. Someday we'll all be gone, but lullabies go on. They never die, and that's how you and I will be. Your dad might not have sung you that lullaby or played you to sleep on his saxophone, but he afforded you countless memories by making the time to take you on trips to Florida, California, Mexico, and that famed trip to Kentucky, a trip that was filled with a visit to the Louisville Slugger Factory and hiking through caves. He always worked hard to give you some of the childhood experiences which he was not privy to have had. Richard Wasserman was born on the south side of Chicago, what you told me was the baddest part of town, to parents Harry and Toby of blessed memory, and then blessed with a baby sister, Linda, sadly, who had passed. His dad would tragically lose his life to cancer when Rick was only 8 years old. His parents tried to shield him from the reality of his dad's illness, and it was only when he returned home from school one day that he would find a large group of people in the house, without any obvious reason to him. But shortly after, he would find out that his father had passed, never having the chance to say his goodbye, something he always regretted. With his mother now carrying the weight of widowhood and 2 children, Rick's childhood was stilted in regard to father-dad moments, such as trips to Disney or the like. You shared that the thought of adoption for the children was pondered, but fortunately that did not take place. They would stay with a friend of the family while Toby put her life back together. She would ultimately meet a man named Sam, a fitting suitor, who she would marry. And then Rick and Linda would come back home to live with this now blended family, though it couldn't replace the absence of his father. Faye explained to me, to express some of his pent-up sadness and anger, Rick, as a young man in high school, became quite the daredevil, somewhat risk-taking and thrill-seeking. He conjured up a way to build his own skateboard, you said, and was the Evel Knievel of the block, often bumper hitching behind a car on slippery roads in the winter. Other than this activity, you noted Rick wasn't much of an athlete, but he was loyal to sports teams such as the Chicago Blackhawks and made sure that his sons followed suit. You shared some of the embedded memories you have of going to Chicago Stadium, the stadium that roars, and being at their last home game, and drowning out the national anthem, which you taught me became a tradition during the 1990-91 Gulf War. Rick didn't thrive at athletics in high school, nor did he prosper in academics either.
Light up your face.
He would graduate and go on to the University of Illinois, but that wasn't quite the right fit for Rick either. And ultimately, he would transfer to Northern Illinois University. There, he would join the ROTC. Why? I thought maybe it was another outlet to express his yet bottled-up thrill-seeking, but you shared with me that Rick said he felt it was the spirit of his father that spoke that to him. He always felt his father's spirit had some premonition of impending war, and by Rick going to ROTC, he was able to avoid the draft. Luckily, he didn't have to go to heavy active battle. His draft number, you should know, was 10. Rick would choose to serve in the Navy, eventually earning his commission, serving 21 years in both active and reserve service. Ultimately, spoiler alert, earning the rank of lieutenant commander. His patriotic pride and his love for the United States was always apparent. Faye, you mentioned that when you first met Rick, it was at Northern. It was a happenstance meeting. You were a first semester freshman and he was a junior. When you crossed paths with him, he was standing outside waiting for a pizza to be delivered, and you began some small talk. He dropped a line on you. "You know I'm in the Navy," he said. Faye thought, what a corny, fabricated pickup line. But it was true. During that year, you were dating, and you actually set Rick up with some of your girlfriends you had known from high school. But Rick was persistent, and he called you to go out. You said he was always so kind, so helpful to me as I nervously navigated my way through my freshman year. He was perpetually optimistic about your abilities, Faye, to succeed. Even later in life, he would prod you with optimism, always, telling you, you'll be fine, you can do it, in so many different moments of your life. And today, I know you have a few words for Rick. And while it seems implausible to speak at this time, we all know that you can do it. So if you're ready to share your words, I can bring the mic to you if you want. You're okay up here, dear? Okay, there's a little mic stand here I don't want you to bump into. Right up here. Can you see it?
Yeah, no, I can see it. It's okay. Thank you all for being here, for supporting Rick and loving Rick, for all the good times and in this journey that was so painful for him. We love you all. Thank you. I will miss the we before he got sick. It was his courage and his strength that were inspirational to me as we navigated these 18 years of sheer hell. But he had optimism, and he was caring, and he'd always say, tomorrow will be another day. And he passed that strength and courage on to Brandon and Gregory. He was an inspiration to you both. He modeled all that strength the best he could. He wanted you to know how much he loved you and how his world got better when you came into the world. I loved him yesterday. I love him today. And I will always love him for all my tomorrows. Thank you. Thank you.
And you will always have your Hawaii. You tried to get Rick to work harder in school, but he was content with his own philosophy of academic life. You said he told you, I don't need an A, and I know just how much I have to do to get a B. And he did just that. He majored in biology and would try his hand teaching, initially at Sullivan High School, but as I noted before, academics wasn't his thing, and he decided to shift paths. He did have such a very sharp mind for details, for dates, for numbers, for names, and he would put those skills to use. Twice. Once as a card player, using his innate skills in games of pinochle and hearts, and the second when he went to Roosevelt University to earn his MBA, which led him to his career as a CPA. Should have numbered the pages. Over summer break, Rick would spend his time at the OCS, the Officer Candidate School. And over time, he would earn your trust, Faye. And then you invited Rick to go to the theater, and you saw a production of Your Good Man, Charlie Brown. And to your delight, you both enjoyed it and kept Charlie Brown as a special place in your hearts throughout your lives. All summer at the OCS camp, you said he uninterruptedly sent you countless letters of amour and endearing compliments. That spring, Rick would propose to you, but you said you felt it was a bit too soon. He had been stationed in Hawaii, Pearl Harbor, and then on a mission in Alaska, quite the polar opposite. Eventually, you did set a wedding date in June, after a ceremony at the Belden Stratford Hotel in Chicago, with his lifetime buddy, Joel Rovner, as his best man. As Rick would be back in Hawaii for his tour of duty, you would honeymoon there and then spent the next 2 years there as well. You came to know the cuisine of Navy life by eating in the commissary and also the mess halls, where you were introduced to the appetizing Spam, and as Rick called it, the SOS. In your home, Rick, you said, was a very hearty eater, loving Italian food, especially pizza, which was interestingly at the genesis of your dating. He also possessed a sweet tooth for brownies, no nuts, Snickers bars with nuts, and Oreo cookies. But at the heart, he was a meat and potato guy with salami and eggs a close second. He enjoyed chowing down his fair share of White House sliders with his friend Joel, but the end result was always dreaded. For those who had yet to meet Joel, he and Rick were best friends to the core. And I've learned you've come from Arizona to be here today, which is a testimony of your brotherhood. You are also Greg's godfather, Brandon and Danielle's ketubah signer. And only such a friend would help build the backyard sukkah so many times with this family. And the family is deeply, deeply appreciative of your precious loyalty. Rick didn't only like Joel, though. He liked his beloved pets, his adopted dog or cat, and you said in Hawaii, even a mouse. And he coaxed you, Faye, to letting him get a dog, telling you how easy it would be, and promised to be around a lot, to take care of the dog. And the one day you were in charge of taking Paxton Quigley, your poodle, to get a haircut was the last time Rick let you take him to get a haircut. For his big, steady boy poodle dog came home with being all pampered and shaved into a floofy type of dog with his nails all polished. Rick would keep himself busy at work and at home. Faye was, you convinced me through all of your words, noting he was a hard worker. He had a full-time job and he had the Navy and he did private accounting. He was brilliant financially. He knew exactly what I needed him to do to take care of us. And he passed those skills on to his kids. Thank God in these hard times they have knowledge and wisdom to guide them. Rick was so brilliant, you boasted, and so moral about what he did for his clients. He loved his job. But when he found jobs, he would always make sure that he would have family time too. He was sure that he wouldn't be working weekends, and if he had to work weekends, he needed to be home by noon so that he could be at his son's games, which were so important to him. When Rick had time to relax, you might find him outside enjoying the sun and working in the garden. Less so the flowers and the shrubs, but more so helping you, Faye, materialize your vision for the yard, renovating a gazebo, setting up a swing set for the boys. He was a very handy guy. Maybe not Jewish then, but he was a very handy guy. And when it came to wallpapering the house, his sons recalled their father all covered in white dust from all of the sandpapering it warranted. Faye declared that surviving the experience of doing an interior improvement on your home was testimony to the strength of their marriage. He let you do pretty much everything you wanted to do with that house, Faye, as long as you saved him one thing. One room painted in red. That held true in Hawaii and it held true in Northbrook. As I shared earlier, Rick enjoyed hockey, but he also enjoyed slower-paced things such as old Western movies on the television. And he was an avid reader, thrill plot books by authors such as Tom Clancy, and he also enjoyed historical fiction. And every day he would regularly devour the morning newspaper from front to back, saving sports and the funnies for his boys. He also collected stamps, coins, baseball cards, and built and painted models of naval ships and airplanes. He also had the flexibility to Faye to also adopt some of your pastimes, such as watching figure skating and the Hallmark movie channel. His taste for music leaned towards jazz. Dave Sanborn, Dave Koz, and the Dave Brubeck Quartet. How he loved the song Take 5, and used to in earlier years play it often, you told me. His taste varied as he also enjoyed Jimmy Buffett, and your sons recall the concert to which they went. Rick always trying to expose them to his pleasures. And it was you, Brandon and Greg, that were his pleasures. two shining crowns in his eyes. How fervently he would rush after work to watch your sporting events such as soccer games, and he'd run up and down the chalk line expressing some serious sideline spirit. He made sure to make it to your parents' weekends at your alma maters of USC and Tulane, if I'm correct. Rick was everywhere and everything to his sons. A man of many transmigressions, not transgressions, transmigressions. And Greg has some very deep thoughts to share about his father's journey in life. You're up. I figured this out.
I've dreamt about this day for so long. I thought about what I'd say, stories I'd tell, specific words to use. All the stories I tell are not meant for this forum. We covered them. That's what I concluded. Those are the stories saved for intimate gatherings, where we share memories. Ones never shared, some always worth telling. But what I did think was worth sharing are the stories of who he was to me. He was a fighter. How else could he have grown up without a father figure in a broken, loveless home? Enlist in the Navy and serve his country for 20 plus years. Make countless sacrifices to create a home and family. And battle this disease for 20 plus years, never making it easy for himself. I'm grateful he was a fighter. He was a traveler. He always told us to enlist in the Navy. See the world for free, he said, because he got to see so much of it as a result of that decision. Made sure we took family vacations. You come to realize some don't get those traditions, those opportunities. Ensured there were college visits to see Brandon and me. Not all make those trips. He saw every facility in Illinois, it seems. Took us on a ride of areas I've never known. I'm grateful for those adventures. He loved, with so much of his heart and soul, from the sacrifices he made to provide for us, to his words of caution and safety, from his actions of a concerned parent and husband, to his laugh, tears rolling down his cheeks as he's gasped for breath, laughing too hard, to his hugs and his kisses. I'm grateful for that love. He was so much more than my words will express, and so much more than my words are meant to share. We all have our memories. Even in those memories are the legacy he left by the lives he touched and the family he raised. He was an unknown stranger. He's a friend. He's a soldier. He's a son. He's a brother. He's a brother-in-law. He's an uncle. He's a son-in-law. He's a husband, a father, and a grandfather. He's someone who impacted many, and his memory will continue to have impact. We're all connected and interconnected to why we're all here. I'll take this quote. Imagine the feeling of relief that would flood our whole being if we knew when we're in the grip of sorrow or illness, our village would respond to our need. This would not be out of pity, but of a realization that every one of us will take a turn at being ill, and we'll need one another. The indigenous thought is when one of us is ill, all of us is ill. Our family's been blessed for so long with a village that has supported us in illness. So allow me to say thank you. And I'll end with this poem. 'Tis a fearful thing to love where death can touch. To love, to hope, to dream, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools, this love, but a holy thing, to love what death can touch. For life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your words has a gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing to love, a holy thing to love, what death can touch. I love you, Dad. Love you guys.
And what good fortune Rick would have to have Danielle enter his life. Faye told me that Rick loved you. When he met you for the first time, you were wearing a red and black plaid shirt, she said. And Rick turned to her and said, "Wow, she looks great, just like you." And that you made Brandon's eyes light up just the way Faye would make Rick's eyes light up. And then he would be bequeathed with the mazel to know Miriam. Faye was sobbing when she shared that Rick would light up on Sundays when you would FaceTime. And he'd say, "Let me see if I'm getting this right. Tiny beans?" Okay, no idea, but tiny beans. I think it's an app of some sort, right? Like a FaceTime thing. He'd say, "Let me see Miriam." And they would show you pictures, which were so adorable. Faye said, I couldn't see them, but Rick was my eyes. And he would describe the pictures of Miriam and what she was doing or eating, saying or not saying. I know, Brandon, you have a lot to say. And so I'd like to ask you to share your thoughts with us at this time.
Thank you all for coming, and thank you for those who are watching on the live stream. Your support and love has meant so much to all of us. Almost everyone here knew my dad, with at least some exceptions. One of them was my daughter. She got to meet him when she was 2 months old, which was a blessing for me and for my dad. But she's still really too young to really remember much about him. Even today, at 13 months, she probably won't remember today or understand all the words I'm about to say. But I'd like to direct my comments towards her, as I feel that might be a helpful lens to share some thoughts about my dad. Miriam, I'd like to share a few things about my dad and some of the qualities about him that I aspire to you as your dad. His work ethic. As mentioned, he worked multiple jobs to provide for his family, whether it was at the accounting firm, and then Republic Windows and Doors, and then PSA, the Navy, and doing accounting tax returns during tax season. He always showed the value of hard work for us. He desired to have lots of travel experiences and make beautiful memories. The Navy took him around the world and inspired a sense of adventure for me, and that we've shared with Miriam today. We had long weekend getaways. With my mom, either to New Orleans or various places in Canada. We had so many family vacations. We created tons of cherished memories and stories to retell. My love of the Padres and Jimmy Buffett, two big characteristics of myself, both have roots with my dad, and I've been able to share that with Miriam. He had a great sense of humor, an ability to tell a joke and laugh. He loved to tell stories. Sometimes he would laugh so hard, he would cry. Whether it was something from either Greg said, maybe it was something I said, or maybe it was something in a movie. Sometimes he would just crack up himself. But laughing at our kitchen table or elsewhere, sitting around telling stories, it was always important to have a sense of humor. He was also stubborn, but to put a positive spin on it, I'd say he had a lot of fortitude. His ability to soldier on and deal with adversity. He had a lot of determination and grit. He had a lot of love for his family, and he had the power of showing up for us, whether it was attending our baseball or soccer games, even after working a long day. He took us to a baseball game or hockey game or some other event. I did Indian guides with him, which was a special bonding time, and I look forward to have special bonding time with you, Miriam. He was always supportive of us and always wanted the best for us and us to succeed. He showed so much affection both to his wife and his children, and he built a house full of love. He also knew the importance of Jewish customs and tradition, whether it was celebrating Shabbat every Friday night, building a sukkah in our backyard, making latkes at Hanukkah, creating so many of our own family traditions. doing mitzvahs. He really instilled and fostered a sense of Jewish identity and customs to pass down. And Miriam, I know we've already started doing Hanukkah, we've done Passover, we do Shabbat. These are some of the things that my dad's done for me and the kind of person he was. And Miriam, I really hope to follow his example for you.
Faye, 51 years of marriage, proved itself to be enduring even with Rick's medical hurdles. You tirelessly and devotedly worked so impressively to make him feel connected to your home and family no matter where he was residing. And when you couldn't manage to drive, you were blessed with various angels in your life. You wrote to me, God put into my life kind and generous-hearted friends that carted me back and forth to all of these nursing homes when my sight began to fail. I don't know if I could have done it without them. And I want to be sure I say this. Flo and Pete, my sister and brother-in-law, were kind and generous with their time and their love. We're so indebted to them because they would schlep me when they knew I couldn't get over to the homes, and then they would stay there with Rick. He loved them very much. Even at a distance, he knew that your family, Ella and Leon, and also Joe and Michelle, had him on their minds, and he could feel their love. He spent many years in the care of rehab centers, and the VA was loyally there to support him, arranging transport services so he could receive the best attention at wound care. And Paralyzed Veterans of America, along with the facilitator at Hines VA, Felix, partnered to get him to their center. And the staff there, you said, these past 3 months were stellar in every way. Even on the day Rick passed away, the manner in which they honored him by draping an American flag over his bed, lining up in the halls and saluting him as he was taken from the facility, you said was breathtaking. Greg, when we spoke, you noted that your dad's youth, he was a risk taker. But you said when he had children of his own, he became more careful, more cautious, always telling you, be safe. He wanted the two of you to enjoy the fullness of life, which he did not get to fully experience due to the difficult moments of his youth, which were mentioned, and then, of course, since his diagnosis. Rick was not only a CPA, a bean counter, but a man who made every day count to the best of his abilities. Even in his state of immobility, he would wake up with enthusiasm and an appreciation for life. Faye, you said he was a good man, a true mensch in every way. We all here today respect and salute Rick for what he committed to his family and to our country. The final words of the Navy anthem, Anchors Aweigh, are such. Anchors aweigh, my boys, anchors aweigh. Farewell to college joys, we'll sail at break of day. Through our last night on shore, we'll drink to the foam. Until we meet once more, here's wishing you a happy voyage home. As Rick's soul will begin to ascend to heaven, we wish for him that the wind be ever at his back, fair weather, and Godspeed. Rick's voyage to his new eternal home will bring him spiritually to rest amongst the generations of his family, and yet he will rest within you as well. And you shall feel his presence well into your future. Even today, as you sit after this service and share a meal together, you will hear his constant guidance reminding you, don't fill up on the bread. Rick loved standing on the beach at the edge of the ocean and marveling at its vastness and its grandeur. Now just wait till he gets to heaven. If you'll stand comfortably, if you're only comfortable to stand, I should say, we'll conclude with the ritual of a memorial prayer. and then the recitation of Kaddish. Male rachamim shachebam romim Hametzeh menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina b'malot kedoshim utehorim kezohar harakia mazhirim et nishmat Rafael ben Aharon Halevi Shalach liolamo began eden temnuchato anaba larakamim ashtireu sete knafech liolamim uteror bitror chayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachlato ve'anuach mishalom mishkavo ve'nomar amen.
Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Rick Wasserman, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. May he rest in peace. Amen. Amen. The words of the mourner's Kaddish speak not one word of death. They speak of life and proclaim it. Today, as we honor and affirm Rick's life, we'll recite the words together of mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah be'alma divra kirutei ve'amlich malchutei b'chayeichon u'v'yameichon u'v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam omei omaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei V'yithadar, v'yit'aleh, v'yit'halal, shemei dekudesha berichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. In just a moment, when the staff here at the cemetery have completed their tasks, we're going to invite all those who wish to partake in the mitzvah of burial. This act in Jewish tradition is truly deemed the ultimate act we can do for a loved one, for we completely give of ourselves, expecting nothing in return. And the tradition is when we come forward to initially place 3 measures of earth into the ground. We then place the shovel back into the ground so each person can take up this act voluntarily. We also don't want to pass our sorrow from one person to another. It's also tradition for at least the initial measure of earth to shovel with the backside of the shovel and then turn it around for the remaining 2 measures of earth. This shows our reluctance to participate in this act and recognizing that this act is truly an unusual one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Shiva will be private. Memorial contributions to the paralyzed veterans of America would be appreciated. That information is on the service folder. For those of you who are joining us online, that information is on the funeral home's website. Upon the conclusion of the burial, we're going to form a shura, a double aisle, on the road here, and that's when the immediate family will walk through, and that's when it's time to offer words of consolation. So from this point, we're going to place the cover of the vault. The family will come forward first, place earth into the grave. Then they'll come back underneath the canopy. Once again, please don't approach the family. Then please place the earth into the grave. Finally, we're going to set up the register book just in the corner of the canopy. If you've not taken a moment to sign the registry, please do so now. And this concludes the live stream portion of the funeral ceremony.